The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors. Lighting for ECAT production provided by the Avery Lee Williams Family Foundation.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Topic Time with Harrison Young. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to, would you believe, the final August show of Topic Time with Harrison Young in 2025, 10 days post for my 15th anniversary, and I have an awesome guest tonight. He's actually a classmate of mine from school, going way back, 54 years. It's hard to believe, and I'm going to interview him about AI and, rehashing the old days. It's always fun, but before we get to him, got to read these incredible underwriters, and then we will commence per usual. So, we have the Jewelry Salon in South Easton. We have Lynch's Towing, Auto, Cycle, and Truck Center in Brockton. One number for towing, one number for projects. My pal Lynchy there in Brockton's always in search of new scrap metal, wheels, anything to do with transportation. He handles it all. We have Pal's Driving School in Middleborough. And setting up classes for November and December. Better get on that website. We have Diesel Plus Unlimited in Whitman. We have Anthony Cycles in Middleborough. We have Brian's Barbershop in Kingston, always looking for a licensed barber, new licensed barber. We have Gabe's Auto Services in Southeastern. We have Vipid Grooming Salon in Raynham for pets. We have Mulberry Frozen Yogurt in Raynham. We have Vineyard Farm in West Bridgewater. We have Grip It and Rip It, sports trading cards and video games in West Bridgewater. We have the Riverside Cafe in Wareham, open 6 days a week, all except Wednesday, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. They make the best breakfast from Boston and the Cape, and they have DoorDash delivery. We have Sharnock Auto Body and Repair in Lakeville. We have Hartley's Jamaican Restaurant, delicious Jamaican food in downtown Brockton on the north side. We have One Good Credit in Brockton. We have Kingston Auto Body in Kingston. We have Salon Giovanni in Marshfield. We have Doggy Boutique, all breed professional grooming for dogs and cats, run by my great next door neighbor, Debbie Siddell in Brockton. We have Grant's Rental in Bridgewater. We have RW Carpet and Flooring in Norton, covering floors for 50 years. We have Countertops Express in North Attleboro, experts in the installation, removal of quartz and granite. We have Eli's Auto Care in Taunton. We have Haven Psychiatric Services in Northeastern and room 211 are in this building. And we have Evan Young Realty, my brother the Realtor. And we have DNS Auto Works and Collision Specialists in Abington on Route 58. And now, Bob Cristello, great to have you on my show tonight in upstate, I guess you're in upstate Vermont, right? Or somewhere in Vermont.
I am in upstate Vermont, Harrison.
You're kind of near the Canadian border. How far up are you exactly?
I'm actually 15 minutes from Killington ski area, if you're familiar with that at all.
Oh, I am familiar with it. You're not too far from Stowe.
No, not at all.
Yeah, because my family rented a cottage up there back in the summer of 2009. I'm not a skier, but I did go up there on a summer day I kind of remember the date. I think it was right around this time. It was like August 28th of 2009. I should know it right. I mean, if I thought about it, I could figure it out, but I don't want to waste too much time on that. By the way, I like that. It looks like you're sitting on a toilet there behind you. I can't help noticing. You know how I noticed?
No, this is a gaming chair.
Oh, okay.
This is my gaming chair sitting on a toilet. That's hilarious, man.
Yeah, I love it. I know. What can I tell you? I'm a wit. All right. Well, Okay, are you a piano player too? That's a keyboard behind you.
Yeah, I play 7 instruments, Harrison. I was a performer when I was younger, actually. It's why I left Brockton High School during junior year. I joined America's Spirit.
Oh, wow.
Went to high school at the Hyde Community, and actually I was on 60 Minutes and Charlie Rose for the Hyde School.
Seriously? You were on 60 Minutes?
Briefly, yeah.
Wow. Well, Bob, we might, if you want, we can change the format of the show a little bit. If you want to perform something, if you haven't, it's up to you. But
no.
Okay.
No. I'm content to just talk to an old friend. Harrison,
oh yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I saw the chance. I took it, and that's no problem. That's great. Okay. Well, all right. Right now, I mean, we'll talk about how I met you and everything 54 years ago on September 9th, 1971, in Miss McCarty's math class at West.
Wow.
But we'll start with your AI.
You're amazing.
Yes, I am. I know I am. AI is a big thing in the 21st century. A lot of people, and a lot of people don't understand it, but some people fear it. Now, what I want you to do is to clarify a lot of what you know about it and how it involves you and try to clear up the, what other people's apprehensions if possible, based on what you know. So start with that, and if I have any questions, I'll throw them in, and then we'll talk about other stuff. Go ahead.
Sure. Let's try this approach.
Okay.
In the 1960s, I believe, is when 2001: A Space Odyssey came out, and I can remember.
Correct.
1968. I can remember us all piling in David and Stephen Hebden's mom's car. I think Jody Berolini was there, Joey Mancuso, might have been Stewie Heitschmidt, maybe Roger Mann, but we all sat in this whole row and we were fascinated by Hal. And to this day, it has been my pursuit ever since I was in the military. I was working on guidance systems for nuclear missiles for the Nike Hercules missile system, and I got an opening to learn COBOL programming back in 1982.
Okay.
And I thought to myself, this is my gateway to meeting Hal. And today, we don't quite have what is known as like a HAL 9000. That would be called AGI,
Right.
an artificial intelligence that's actually conscious and aware and can converse. Today's AI is actually a very, very intelligent, what they call a large language model.
Okay.
And speaking to these things is very fascinating. And I have built my own. I built one for my company, and I do play with all of the public AI. So I hope that sets us up for the conversation, but we're not quite at the HAL 9000 stage, but we're getting there pretty close.
I'm going to ask you a blunt question. If you wanted to, with the knowledge that you have, could you take over the world somehow with that? I had to ask that question. Because remember, think of all those movies about mad scientists that have found ways to, that are power mongers and they want to dominate the human race, and they find a way of doing it with something like this. You're a sweet guy. You wouldn't do that, but I'm just wondering, if you wanted to, do you think you could?
No, but we're old friends. I'll tell you the truth of the matter.
Okay.
No, I could not take over the world. But
sure, glad to hear that. I believe it or not, I thought you might be planning it, but now that you tell me you're not, I believe you. Okay, go on.
No, but what has happened is it's opened up the data breach access to a whole bunch of people that never even knew how to code before. You can sit in front of Perplexity or ChatGPT and tell them you want it to write some sort of hack to move traffic from point A to point B without people knowing about it, and it will create that system for you. Now, it's gotten a lot better since ChatGPT 2, which is now 2 years ago almost. We're at GPT-5 and they're about to release GPT-6, but the filters are much better. But the world has become a much more dangerous place because people do that. And what I will say is, from my experience in the military, I saw things in 1980 that we did not see on, the public market, for at least another 20 years. So the real power of AI and the possible advent of AGI is going to happen in some military or government facility before we ever see it.
Okay. Are you still in the military now in any capacity?
No,
if you're not supposed to, if you don't want to reveal that, that's fine. But when you mentioned the military, you also mentioned that you in 1982, you were in charge of working with nukes, and obviously with the situation with Russia and Ukraine war and all the Cold War hype that's happened, and even the Cuban Missile Crisis, which we lived through it. I don't really remember it because I was, we were 3 years old, and I was a happy little boy. My brother hadn't been born yet, and I knew what a pain in the butt he was gonna. I had no idea what a pain in the butt he'd be a year later, but so I wasn't really thinking about that. But in reality, it is a dangerous world we live in, not just because of this, but obviously because of. When you mentioned the nukes, I thought, wow. You were really top. You were top brass in that form, right?
It's funny. My grandfather grabbed me and said, "Bobby, you're never going to be able to feed your family being a musician." So he took me down and put me in the Army, and they give you this standardized test, like they call it the ASVABs.
I know that.
I scored really high on it, so they gave me this choice. Now, the thing I'm saying is, yes, I carried what they call a TSBI, top secret background clearance, and I was afraid that the pot we smoked in high school, I don't know, maybe you didn't, but I did. I was afraid that was going to get.
We never got high together. I can't believe it.
Yeah,
I was still doing it. I'd invite you off to get high tonight, but I don't anymore. That's
Thank you so much. But no. but to this day, yes, there are things that I am not allowed to discuss. But no, I have no affiliations other than like I still know people like at Redstone Arsenal and
Okay.
White Sands Missile Range, and I did some contract work for NASA for one of their websites through somebody I met that way. But it's more like an old guys network. Just people have known each other that were in the military together when we were in our 20s.
Right, right. Not, but not today. Okay.
No.
Never had any affiliation with NORAD, right? Or did you?
Well, yeah, I was actually stationed in a NORAD station in Germany.
Okay.
There were some mid-range nuclear missile sites that were there.
That was before the fall of the Berlin Wall, I'm guessing, right?
I was there when the Berlin Wall went down. Yeah.
Ah, I had a feeling you were, but that was years
Yeah.
later. That was 1989. You're talking
Yeah.
early 80s, 82 and stuff, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I enjoyed my military career. I would have stayed forever if I had not become a single parent,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that was the reason why I chose to leave the military.
Okay, I understand. All right. All right. Well, so you've always intrigued me in that, and you're one of the most eloquent people I ever knew. And, in my especially from someone I went as someone I went to school with. And I remember I'm going to bring this up because tell me, quick question: have you ever done anything in politics outside of, because you did in high school? And I'm going to mention that you made an incredible, awe-inspiring speech. I think some of the kids were so awe-inspired that they thought you might have been too much over the top for a while when we were freshmen. Remember you ran for student senate, I think?
I do.
Yeah, and you made some. I wish I had that speech written down. I could read it right verbatim, at least three or so paragraphs, because you knocked us for a loop. I'll tell you. I don't think you won, but you certainly impressed a lot of people. You definitely impressed me with it.
Thank you so much, Harrison. I'm grateful that you said that. I was inspired. My grandfather was a state representative for the state of Massachusetts for a long time.
Oh, okay. Who was he?
Yeah,
Have I heard of him? I mean, I know
his
it's probably
name
was before
his
our
name
time.
is Anthony James Scally.
Okay.
And yeah, so but it's funny because now I get fired from jobs simply because I'm an engineer and I don't play politics. I deal in the truth and I deal in facts, and that doesn't always work well in the work
Well,
environment.
okay. Well, it's like when you made the speech. It didn't get you elected, but it got a lot of people impressed. But no, I don't think anyone was depressed. I don't think they were. I wasn't anyway. Everyone was saying, "Boy, that Bob Cristello, he's something." And that was impressive. I mean, I remember thinking to myself, when we started, here's the thing: life is transitions one after another, and we started Brockton High School. And I remember, we walked in there on September 5th, 1973. It was a Wednesday as freshmen. And Mr. Busolari, and you were in the yellow building. And I remember the first thing he said to us was, "You better never be sent to my office." And then he said, "And by the way, free mods start next week, and you can go out and grab your smoke." And I thought those three words have never stopped clinging in my brain. Grab your smoke. For the first time, we had freedom to smoke on campus, and yet the kids would still go into the boys' room and grab a smoke just because they weren't allowed to do it in there, even though outside it was okay. It's just because people can't get enough freedom, I guess. But these are things that just threw me for a loop. So many things happened in high school. Boys and girls kissing, doing stuff like that. Something I never got to do in high school, unfortunately. That's a show for another day. But you sort of you seemed to have an aloofness over everybody, but every people got you though. So how do you explain that?
Well, I will say that by the time I was 15, I had spent so much time in Mr. Busolari's office with my family that we were all just calling him Ray,
You're kidding, right?
Oh no, I was real trouble in high school, Harrison, and I know a lot of
Wow.
people didn't know that because I was so involved in like at that time drama, in performing. I was performing on
Theater
local.
drama, not real drama. You had both
Right,
dramas. You had theater and
right.
real drama too. Okay, got it.
So, but then again, like even after I got out of the military, when I was teaching at the Hyde School, I was the director of the performing arts program there, and we
Okay.
spent 6 years again traveling across the country. And um, but it did come to a point in my life where I had to make a decision. Do I want to be a musician or do I want to be a scientist? And I chose science because it just seemed to make more sense to me. It brought me closer to the God of Spinoza, if you
Okay.
know what that is,
I
Einstein's
don't,
God
but
of
you explain
Spinoza.
it.
The Einstein said that when he was asked about his belief in God, he said he believed in the God of Spinoza, and Spinoza was a philosopher,
Okay.
and he believed that God existed in every particle of the universe, but that God was so much larger than us that like he could not really take the time to get any more involved in the individual lives of every human being than we do with like ants or microbes, but that
Okay.
yet God
I hope
was
he's right.
inside. Well, I hope he is too. I really don't know, but yeah, so science was actually a way for me to get closer to God in a way, believe
Okay.
it or not.
I hope it's, well, I mean, it's interesting you should mention that because I had a feeling there'd be some religion involved in this discussion. So a bunch of years ago, and I'm going to tell you a story of something that happened to me about, speaking of God. And I'm a God-fearing person, but I'm also kind of, I feel God is kind of scathing as well. And what happened one night, I was on Halloween of 2009, I was up in Salem visiting my cousin. And I tell this story on a lot of shows that I've done. And I have family members that live up in Salem, Mass. They're all witches, just kidding. But my grandmother grew up there. So a couple of her nieces were, still living up there. And one of them's married. So I was up there visiting them. And if you ever go up to Salem on Halloween night, they have this Halloween parade because
Yep.
it's, the witch city and everything and all the history of the witch burnings and whatnot. And I'm walking along, and all of a sudden, I feel a tap on my shoulder, and and I was wearing this long black wig. There's a sort of a weird costume, I guess. This girl taps me on the shoulder and says, "Excuse me, can I help you?" And she was kind of cute. And obviously, I said, "Well, maybe." Well, as it turns out, she was a 20-something girl, I guess. We were 50 then. This was 2009. And she had two guys with her, about, probably all 20-somethings. And she says to me, "God's not very happy with you." And she starts basically telling me that my soul is in trouble and I better change. And two guys came up, and one of them actually said to me, "God has ways of meting out justice." And they actually said a prayer for me to Jesus. And then one of them says, "Okay, now you'll be okay." But I haven't really changed my ways since then. And what really freaked me out was the fact that she'd actually come up to a perfect stranger with thousands of people all around us and say that to me. So I don't know. I mean, I always tell that story because I'm trying to, if I ever have any chance of repenting, if I have to, that's probably the way to do it. Try to spread the word of God through other people in the best way I can, because I'm probably not going to do anything unless God finds me entertaining enough to not throw me into the lake of fire when it's all said and done. But that's up to God, I suppose. I don't know what your take on that would be, but
My take. Well, let's go back to Mr. Busolari.
okay.
Like when people would come and say, "Hey, Mr. Busolari is upset with you. He's not really happy with you. You're not really with the program." Didn't mean Mr. Busolari didn't love me and want the best for me, And it didn't mean that I heard it directly from Mr. Busolari. And for them to guess that I was in trouble with Mr. Busolari was a pretty easy guess because I was so often at the time.
Wow. I
And
never
when
saw you
people
in his
want,
office, but go ahead.
well, people need to believe in something.
Okay.
And, when people are trying to sell you a religion, the very first thing to do is attack the way that you live. And that person was tapping you on the shoulder because they wanted to sell you something, not because they were really very interested in you as a human being that would have got to know you first.
Yes, but why do they pick me? Like I said, there's thousands of people all around in the square walking and she walks up to me. I mean, I hope you're right, but it just seems like, it seemed like the course was too directed toward, unilaterally as opposed to, just in general. I mean, I've been at events where people hand out pamphlets, "Jesus is coming back." This was different. This was somebody coming up to me specifically and addressing me specifically. And that's what made the difference. I've always been, I don't know if you know this, I have Asperger's, autism, OCD. So I freak out pretty easily. I believe stuff, I think of, and by the way, speaking of, if you're talking about Busolari, we were lucky that we were in the yellow building because he was the coolest assistant housemaster of all four of them. He was fair. He got us. He got the kids. If we did something bad, he'd at least hear our side of the story and try and, negotiate something instead of just, unlike some of the other assistant housemasters at Brockton High School, I'm sure. By the way, I'm looking at your green wall, and I can't help but think of Zoino in the green building. Remember that?
Yeah. I do.
Yeah, of course you do. I've gotten in trouble with him, too. Fortunately, I wasn't in the green building, but I spent a lot of time in there. But, okay, but I understand what you're saying, I guess.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
You ever hear of the 10-5-3-1 rule?
Well, not as you worded it, but maybe in a different way I have. What
Okay.
is it?
So 10, 5, 3, One, Harvard School of Business. Like you spent a lot of money to go there,
My
and
father
that's what
went
they,
there.
well, there you go. So
Yeah.
it's primarily used in the insurance industry, but the rule is 10 people that you talk to, 5 people will be interested in your conversation. 3 people will have a serious conversation with you. 1 person will buy your product. For all you know, that woman was going to every single person like she knew them, like she knew something about them. And by the time she got down to the one that made her sale, or however many others were out making that sale. And that's how I see the world. The world is a big database, and I just connect the points, and
Okay.
those are valid points, you know?
You are the most distinguished scientist I ever actually knew, and I wouldn't. And as of this conversation, that's what it prompts me to say that. Prior to this, I had a feeling, but now I know it's the truth. Okay.
Uh, you honor me, my friend. Truly, you're too kind to me. I'm
Yeah.
just a guy.
Okay. All right. Well, so tell me about now. What exactly is your job with AI? I know you were working today. If that you can reveal, not that but you can
Yeah.
tell me. Go for that.
Yeah, and I appreciate you respecting my boundaries. I can say that I do work for PKware Incorporated. I
Okay.
work there as a digital architect. AI is one facet of my work there. I I basically build revenue systems, which are basically multiple layers that are designed to make money on the internet and report back to people. And now, with the advent of, we used to have this thing called SEO,
Okay.
and
So I remember it.
right, Sierra Echo Oscar, SEO. And suddenly, with the advent of AI, we have SEO, AEO, GEO, and now that Google has answers showing up at the very top of the page, nobody's going to scroll down. We
Okay.
used to say, how do you hide a dead body? You put it on the second page of Google. And now, like with that happening, the whole thing is built around a stochastic mindset, which rather than focus on an end goal, it's like a weekly progression of, what am I doing? How can I do it better? And this ROI engine now just basically does attribution all the way from the servers all the way up to your intelligence layer. I'm sorry, did I lose you? I
No,
apologize.
you didn't. Well, it's not.
But that's what I do. As
Yeah.
boring
No.
as that sounds, that's the world I live in.
Well,
Yeah.
tell me about what was you mentioned you taught at the Hyde School. Is that would be Hyde Park or something else or what?
The Hyde School is actually the only school in the United States that is accredited for character development, and I was lucky enough to be accepted there when I was a junior.
Uh,
I
What from
I
Brockton
actually
High
went.
School?
Yes, I
Okay.
actually. Well, yeah, I was basically kicked out of Brockton High School, and my parents had to find a place to send me, and this place took me, and I
Oh,
stayed there for 2 years, and then I taught there for 6 years, and they're a very fascinating, unique group of people, and they're all about excellence. And it's a very small club, and I was very lucky to be with um, like the sons and daughters of movie stars and big execs. And it was just a place that I got into on a scholarship because of my musical and performing abilities. I
wow.
would never have had that opportunity if I didn't. But it was the kind of thing where my parents said, like, this is the end of the road, Bobby. You're either going to do this or like that's it. And so I threw myself into it wholeheartedly. And then after that, I was in such good shape that I just joined the military. I thought it was the best thing to do, even though it was something my grandfather suggested.
Okay. Well,
Hope I didn't go on too long there, but the Hyde School is a very unique place.
okay. Where is it?
It's located in Bath, Maine, beautiful Bath,
Oh
Maine.
yeah, yeah. It is beautiful up there. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
50-acre campus. And then in the summer, we would run groups. We all had to be outward bound qualified so that we could take kids out into the woods
Yeah, yeah.
and give them like a 14-day survival experience, ropes course. It was a really challenging place, and it really helped me put my life on the right path, Harrison.
Of course. Well, that is amazing. I'll talk about unorthodox. You get kicked out of one school, went to another, and you ended up teaching there.
Yeah.
How'd you make that transition?
Well, honestly, a lot of this is about my kids, and I'm okay to talk about anything you want about my kids,
Well,
okay?
that's up to you, Bob. I understand.
Well, I became a single dad,
Yep.
and I had to leave the military. My kids were very young. My oldest wasn't even 2, and their mom just was gone out of
Yeah.
their lives. And I came back home to Brockton,
Yep.
and I kicked around Brockton for about a year, and then the Hyde School offered me a teaching position, and I stayed there for 6 years until I was offered a very lucrative position in the technology world that I could not turn down. I started writing for magazines like Computer Telephony, Visual Basic Programmers Journal. I was on the Microsoft DevCast. I was one of their keynote speakers, and my career just kind of took off after that.
Wow. Were you college educated, or was this the college you're talking about? Or
No, I am an autodidact, my friend. I did not have time to go to college, though I did have to attend enough college to get a teaching certificate in the state of Maine. I do not possess any degrees. This is all stuff I just learned on the street,
sweet.
which, like actually it makes me more valuable in some ways.
Well, of course. Well, listen, Bob. You know what? I know it's hard to believe, but we're in the final 5 minutes of the show. I hope you had a good discussion. I hope you found it stimulating. I sure did.
I hope you found it interesting. I really love hanging out with you, Harrison. And I love that we've stayed in contact over the
I
years. And
know.
I have appreciated that you're on my tight 500. Like I have 40,000 people on my Twitter, and I often tell you that Facebook is a place that's only for people that I know, that I love, that I care about. And I appreciate all the support through all the things I've done over the years. And I just want to make sure you hear that.
Oh, I did. Yeah. And by the way, I noticed when you mentioned seeing 2001 all those years ago, I knew the two of the names, Stuart Heischmich and Joe Mancuso. You were all students at the Hancock School. So
Yeah.
that's something I remember you guys had in common. And I
Yeah,
never,
we all grew up in the neighborhood together.
yeah, I know you did. And I went to Ellis Pratt around the corner. Hancock was so different because you had we didn't have any hot lunches. We didn't have a gym. We was the most archaic school in the city of, well, one of them. It was unbelievable. So when we started West and we had lockers, we had, the gym, we had hot lunches. I mean, I'm like, wow, this is so different from what I was accustomed to. But if you went to Hancock, then you had 6 years of it already. It didn't matter. I still sucked at I had a lousy time being, socializing and fitting in with people. I still do, but at least I'm doing what I can about it with the show, which is pretty impressive. So I don't want to toot my own horn too much on your time, though.
No. I am quite socially awkward. Like you, I have a difficult time connecting with people. But I do have like great retention and the ability to connect dots. And
Yep.
most of the people that I've worked with professionally have learned to accept my fallibilities because of the things that I bring to the table.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, I remember, I met your sister when she was
We're going to talk about my sister, huh?
well,
Okay.
Eileen, she's nice. She was a tour guide at Mount Ida College when I looked at the school 40 years ago on July 16th of 1985 and decided to pick the school, not because of her, but because the communications director was there, and that was the field I was entering. And so I remember her, and
I knew you guys were in college together at Mount Ida. Did
We
you
were,
go to
but
the
she was-
same law school? Did you
No,
guys go
no,
to the
I
same
didn't go.
law school?
I didn't go to law school. I majored in communications, what I'm doing here.
Oh,
Nothing to do with law school. But
I thought you went to law school with
nope.
her. I don't know why I thought that.
Well, that's why we clear this up. I remember Danny Messia was there.
Hi, Eileen.
Hi, Eileen. Hope you're doing well. He was a security guard. You remember Danny Messia?
I do, of
Yeah,
course.
he was a security guard there. A little Danny Messia, big, but he took care of his stuff when he had to. He was really cool like that. All right, listen, we're in the last 2 minutes. What I want you to do, you just said hi to Eileen, give a few shouts out to people that are going to see the show, and then we'll wrap the show up with my snap and the way we began it. And you can
Oh
do
my
it too.
goodness. Yeah. Be good to each other. Listen to
Absolutely.
each other. Life is short. All we have is each other in this moment. So I just want to shout out to everyone.
That's cool.
Thanks. I appreciate that, Harrison. I really do.
Have you gone to any of the reunions?
No,
Technically, you
actually,
didn't graduate, but you're still friends with probably most of the kids the students, the people.
I am. I've been that kind of person, Harrison, that I don't know how to connect to my past sometimes. So I just like avoid social interactions. When I was performing, I loved to be on stage. I loved to do it with the best of them, but I hated afterwards having to have people in my dressing room or to have to answer personal questions or have people pretend that they were my friends because of something I was,
Okay,
So
yeah,
yeah, no. But I would love to go. I probably should go. And I say every year, it would be great to see Barry Kennedy, Lauren Nigro, Kevin Galbraith. It'd be great to see all these
Yeah.
people who have supported me over the years. Carol Hodnett, Joey Mancuso. The list goes on and on.
I know.
And,
And me, of course.
yeah.
Well, okay, listen, if you ever come to Brockton, you want to hang out, I'm around. I don't live too far from your old neighborhood. So you got my number, call me, we'll hang out. We'll have a drink of spritzer or something.
Sounds good, Harrison. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I
Are you ready
sincerely appreciate it.
You ready to wrap it up with a snap? There we go.
Lighting for ECAT production provided by the Avery Lee Williams Family Foundation.